Let's briefly look geographically at the spread. We can see here in the northern section of the U.S., these were the dark lines are annual conferences from the time 1796, in which the geographical areas were first named. You can see here, this is an important area, the Redstone Circuit. This is the first circuit west of the Alleghenies, which run here, even before the Christmas Conference. So this is sort of the first stretch initiative in the northern belt of westward expansion. Redstone area, not too far from Pittsburgh. You can see the process here where when a new circuit is created, over time, as the classes grow, the circuit will divide into societies, small groups, to create density, saturation. You can see from Redstone, it's important because into the Northwest Territory spread Methodists, both laity and circuit riders, into the Northwest Territory, which is present-day Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. You can see Peter Cartwright was one of the great leaders of this Northwest Territory in Illinois, and we met him already. It's interesting that Methodism grows from the U.S. into Canada, the late 1790s, but then the Canadian Methodists return the favor and evangelize Michigan and the peninsula, the area here of Michigan, and reaches Detroit, even during the War of 1812 here. You can see that Wisconsin, a man named Alfred Brunson, was the great apostle of Wisconsin. So really it's by the 1830s, on the northern section of the U.S., Methodism had spread solidly to the Mississippi River Basin and the territories there as well. In the southern sections, you can see, again, Virginia being one of the strong early sections after the American Revolution. The southward drift of Methodist population centers meant that Virginia was one of the strong population centers, and the Virginia Conference remains one of our largest, if not the largest, in terms of population. But you can see here this first great entry across the Appalachian chain, as they're called here in the southern regions, into the Holston Circuit, which was founded in 1783. So the Holston Circuit is the first great southern circuit west of the Alleghenies. And this Holston Circuit is important because it then became, through this river system, the Nolichucky River, the French Broad River, this river system began to be the highway for western growth. Just as the Ohio River, we'll go back up here to our previous, the Ohio River becomes the highway westward into these Northwest territories. These small rivers in the gaps of the mountains in eastern Tennessee becomes a strong early center for the Tennessee area, what becomes known as the Western Conference, Kentucky, Tennessee, including parts of Virginia, and even stretching across the Ohio and into Missouri. So you can see Kentucky, late 1780s, and of course Kentucky Methodists also crossed the Ohio River into Ohio before the turn of the century, the turn of the 19th century there. You can see the Western Conference will play an important role in evangelizing beyond the Mississippi River into Missouri, and we're going to meet the man who was the apostle of the Western Conference and across the Mississippi River, Bishop William McKendry. But I want to call your attention here also to the kind of the two-directional meeting of Methodism here in Alabama. You can see that Methodism arrived in Mississippi due to Tobias Gibson's canoe trip down the Mississippi. He was unable to evangelize in New Orleans very effectively because of the Catholic presence, but was able to take Methodism in 1804 into Mississippi. From the Savannah and the Savannah River area, Methodism in Georgia began to emerge, and the great apostle of Georgia Methodism, Hope Hull, took the church across the area, which was still a part of the South Carolina Conference in the late 18th century, and was able to bring Methodism meeting in the middle, as it were, in 1807 on the Tom Bigby River circuit there in Alabama. This man, William McKendree, becomes the first native-born American bishop in 1808. McKendree, known as the Apostle of Western Methodism, which really meant Kentucky and Tennessee and parts of Missouri at the time, had been converted early in his ministry and was easily swayed. In fact, he lacked confidence in his preaching, and James O'Kelly convinced him to walk out in 1792 in the O'Kelly Schism. McKendree, being native-born, was always attracted to more democratic forms of Methodism, but he was convinced by Francis Asbury to rejoin the Methodist Episcopal Church in the 1790s, and went on to regain his confidence. He preached a stirring sermon at the 1808 General Conference and was elected bishop off the strength of his preaching. McKendree made his home in the Nashville area and was one of the first to reach across into Missouri. There is a McKendree chapel in Missouri, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and you can see here McKendree was strong on the frontiers, but also was involved in the camp meetings and preached with Francis Asbury frequently throughout the Western Conference, and believed strongly in the organization of the camp meeting. A couple of innovations that he oversaw. He put into place at General Conference the Episcopal sermon as policy directive, visionary statement. He, with his love for democracy, also instituted the cabinet system of appointments, whereby he would rely on his presiding elders in consultation with himself to make appointments, which is today's system. Francis Asbury didn't like the system and complained to McKendree about it in General Conference, tried to upbraid McKendree by saying, "We've never initiated this kind of consultation before. Why do you need it?" And he rose and said, "You had no need of it because you are our father, but because I am but the son, I had need of consultation." He oversaw a rapid expansion of the church, which we will see here. Let me go forward. You can see the annual conferences beginning to spread westward by the 1820s, and you can see the dates of the various annual conferences. Overseeing rapid expansion, William McKendree also instituted a constitution for Methodism with the non-negotiable restrictive rules. Another bishop named Joshua Soule, which we'll meet later, who becomes bishop of the Southern Methodist Church when we get to the split of those churches. The Constitution for the discipline was enacted in 1808, and also the Delegated General Conference, where preachers were complaining that if all preachers were to come to, say, Baltimore for General Conference, the Baltimore and the Philadelphia conferences would dominate because they were usually closest to the center. So a delegated formula for preachers, so many delegates per the number of preachers for a conference, was enacted. So a lot of democratic reforms occurred during Bishop McKendry's time, and during his life, the high autocratic Asbury episcopacy was modified to a more indigenous democratic form of episcopacy. William McKendry is buried at Vanderbilt University on their campus, which is a little bit strange. This is the Bishop's Cemetery, where he and Bishop Joshua Soule, who wrote the Constitution in 1808 under his direction, both Soule and McKendry rest on the campus of Vanderbilt University today. Kind of strange to think that there'd be bishops' plots buried right outside of Candler's building, but they're at the Divinity School of Vanderbilt, that Methodist University. You can see the final resting place of William McKendry. We'll look next time at the expansion of Methodism through the camp meetings.